After years of leaks, speculation, and teasing, we've finally gotten a real solid look at Starfield. Between gameplay footage shown, interviews, and Bethesda development videos, there's a lot to know about this game. Whether you're on the hype train or still a little skeptical, we've got some info and some insight. 10 topics, 10 things to know, so let's get started off with number 10. We'll start off with the biggest question. How big will Starfield be? Now, we got some information to go on. Now, keep in mind, developers can sometimes overpromise, but Starfield will apparently feature over 1,000 explorable planets. Well, you might be asking yourself, how can developers make so many planets? Well, partially through procedural generation, a system using algorithms to randomly generate, certain types of planets and biomes. But with that being said, Bethesda said that even with that, this game still has the most handcrafted stuff they've ever had in a game. And you will know the difference between a random remote planet and a highly detailed planet filled with a quest or something significant. Like, apparently the game will let you know. Now, we know officially there are going to be 4 big main cities in Starfield. First, there's New Atlantis, which Bethesda states is the biggest city they've ever made. We'll see, but it's the capital city of the United Colonies, and where you join up with Constellation, the main spacefaring group. Then there's Aquila, the capital of the Freestar Collective, kind of maybe just like a freedom town, and Neon. Neon looks like an oil rig or like a fishing platform turned into a big massive city. This seems like it might be the kind of playground city, the place for a little debauchery, because the official descriptions mention the planet having a native fish that has drug-like effects, and that this planet makes this drug from it called Aurora. I'm thinking Skooma 2.0, baby. Then there's one more planet that we don't know anything about yet officially. So 4 main cities might not sound like a lot, but with my speculation hat on, I can imagine big main cities like this, and then sub-cities and towns all across the galaxy. Maybe wishful thinking, I don't know, but I'm just looking at their previous games and guesstimating. At this point, I'm just looking for quality over quantity, but that's just me. Now, over at number 9, one of the obvious big reveals was base building. If you played Fallout 4, this makes sense. Now, instead of special areas in the map like that game, you can seemingly choose a planet to call home and establish a base wherever. It looks like you plop down a little thing and start building wherever you want. Think more like Fallout 76 did than Fallout 4, which, say what you want about Fallout 76, but that part of it was an improvement. And it seems like you're going to be able to look at numbers for viability before setting up a base there, which is nice. And then you build your refuge. It looks like you can use resources to make certain chunks and then connect them together, but we don't know yet just how crazy or how big you can go, like height or range wise. But of course, you will be limited by resources and power to keep things running, so that's where you need to actually put this base to work. Aside from just hanging out, you can make it produce materials and stuff for you, generate them at a certain rate, and you can also give NPCs jobs, keeping stuff going for you. Judging from looking at the footage, you can, aside from just harvesting materials, also generate science stuff, military stuff, and maybe food and water. Now, that seems significantly in-depth on the surface. I really hope it's as micromanagey as it's letting on, because I find that stuff really interesting. But speaking of, that does lead us to our next point. At number 8, shipbuilding. This is where my ears perked up in the reveal. You can build your own ship. Now, from what we can see, it seems similar to base building, where you spend materials to create unique chunks of ship with different uses and stats that you can then manipulate and snap together to a main ship, and also change the colors of every individual piece. Now, thanks to site EIP Gaming, which we'll link in the description below, they've broken down a lot of the stats we're able to see for customizing every part of the ship. The main thing you have to worry about is your mass level, so your ship can actually take off, but you're also customizing hull, shield, cargo area, crew area, mobility, jump range, and max speed, along with a couple of other things that we're not quite sure what they are yet. Apparently, there is some customization to the interior as well, but not enough info on that yet. Speaking of the crew, the fact that you'll be able to man your ship with a crew of NPCs is very interesting. I just wonder how far they'll take it and whether or not you can really build relationships with this crew. Now, next over at number 7, let's talk about what you're doing with this ship. Bethesda has confirmed that it is not 100% freedom. There are some restrictions. You cannot manually land your ship on a planet's surface or hop in and fire it up and drive it into space like directly from the ground. There is a separation between the planet's surface and up in space. So think something a bit more traditional than, like, say, the wide open hop in your ship and fly off like in No Man's Sky. In space, however, when you're there in your ship, there is manual space flight and combat. We've seen a bit of it, of course, and it's not quite as fast-paced aerial dogfighting because you're a larger ship, but you're still able to track and follow and shoot down enemy ships to try to defend yourself. It is also confirmed that you can dock to other ships and apparently also steal ships, which has some pretty wild implications. I'm looking forward to seeing that in action. And along with that, smuggling is also confirmed. How in depth, we don't know, but again, it could be cool if done right. Now, next over at number 6, let's talk factions. Now, for a while, we've known about factions in the game, but it's really starting to become clear that the separate factions are going to make up a significant portion of the game. These various groups form a lot of the cultures you're going to be seeing or the people you're interacting and questing with. Now, we know of quite a few, so I'll start in order of the bigger main ones we know a lot about to seemingly smaller ones that we were just briefly mentioned. There's the United Colonies, kind of like a future space government, you know, the idealized space republic. There's the Crimson Fleet, which are pirates. There's the Freestar Collective, which Bethesda calls the Space Western Fantasy. There's Ryujin Industries, kind of like a Corpo, maybe Wayland Yutani style thing. There's also House Varun, which is like a fanatical religious group. There are Spacers, who we don't know anything about other than that they are violent. Seriously, that's the only info. The Ecliptic Mercenaries, seemingly specialized bounty hunters, but we don't know much about them. And then the Xenofresh Corporation, which is seemingly involved with the city Neon. So what does all this mean? It's different people to align with, different people to piss off, different people to shoot, different people to trade with, really anything. It seems like you're not going to be able to ignore or avoid all of them. Some of them might just come down to being fodder for shootouts, but for the dedicated questing factions, I'm curious to see how much decision making there is and how siding with one group benefits you versus another. You know, there's a lot of RPG stuff that can really go on with these, and considering the cities are going to be so big and apparently so deep, I'm curious to see how these different types of people coexist. Now, briefly over at number 5, Persuasion is back. Yeah, the developers confirmed that there is a persuasion system, similar to what you would do with NPCs in Elder Scrolls Oblivion. This is one of the examples they brought up when explaining that they were going back to more hardcore RPG mechanics. Persuasion is apparently more in-depth this time and less binary, so when choosing what to say, there might not always be a clear right answer, and apparently there's going to be some depth. I'm really looking forward to seeing how well this is implemented, because like with all the NPCs and faction leaders and stuff like that and crew members, this can be interesting. And there is a whole branch of social skills which could lead to a lot of interesting stuff with that, and that leads us to number 4, the character creation. Now, we know quite a bit about it. There's a good amount of stuff. So you're going to fully customize your visual look in the typical way you'd expect, you know, face and body. Then you're going to choose your background. These will give your character, who is not voiced, by the way, is silent, a bit of backstory, but also starting skills. Like, say, for example, your background here is a chef. You're gonna get a wellness health percentage boost and get better food and drinks and research crafting bonuses. Or say your background is a combat medic. So you'll start with a pistol does 10% more damage skill and a med pack 10% bonus skill. Get what I mean? Then after that, you pick 3 traits. Like, say you pick, for example here, introvert, where the description says you have more endurance when you're adventuring alone and without companions. Some of them seem like simple stat bonus things like that, but then there's, we see on screen here, alien DNA, which who knows what the hell that does, or kid stuff, which states that your parents are alive and well, and you can go visit them whenever you want. And 10% of your money is sent to them to help them. So if you choose this, you may get optional bonuses or a fun side quest involving your parents. I'm really curious to dive into these and see how significant some of these are. Now, we've seen skills broken down into physical, social, combat, science, and tech. And it seems like a lot of these are going to tie into crafting, be it for projects for bonuses or items or for weapon stuff. Now at number 3, speaking of weapons, combat so far, what you see is what you get here, really. Love it or hate it, you've seen the gameplay trailers, that's mostly what we know. But we do have some things eagle-eyed internet fans have picked up on, simple stuff first. Along with the HUD seemingly showing certain oxygen levels and stuff on one side, you're able to keep track of ammo, health, and grenades. And one of the weapons showed off the ammo count live on the weapon itself, which is always a cool sci-fi thing we like to see. Now, as for weapons, we have about 9 guns confirmed from the trailer. If you want to break it down, we saw 2 types of pistols, a kind of assault rifle, a double-barreled shotgun, because of course you need that in space, a longer, seemingly semi-auto rifle, and a few heavier weapons, including using the mining laser to possibly hurt some enemies. I expect there to be more, especially as there is a spotted sniper rifle skill, so while we don't really see a big, long, traditional scoped sniper rifle in action or anything, it's probably likely. And speaking of skills, in a screen of the character traits and skills, you can see a starting skill called dueling, where it explicitly states melee weapons do X amount more damage. So yeah, that's all we know. It seems like melee weapons are confirmed. I'm just curious to see what it's gonna be. Just knives, or space katanas, or blunt objects, maybe even lightsabers, I don't know. I think that's for the modders. What I'm most excited to see is how the booster kind of jetpack thing feel, and how smoothly that can tie into combat. We got a brief glimpse of zero-G shootouts, and that can be something really special and totally unique for a Bethesda game, if done right. Now down to number 2, seeing that this is a Bethesda game, it's really no surprise that there is going to be companions. The first companion that was revealed was this neat little dude here. Their name is Vasco. Vasco is a bipedal machine that comes equipped with a few different weapons so they can obviously defend itself and you. In a video put out by Bethesda, they mentioned Vasco has the, and I quote, payload capacity needed for overland journeys. So maybe you'll be able to have Vasco haul some of your resources and loot around so you don't become over encumbered. They also show off some concept art of Vasco repairing your ship. So I wonder if they're going to be the one handling ship repairs. And is it only when you land, or will Vasco act like an astromech droid from Star Wars? They seem to be going pretty heavy into the ship combat in some ways, so maybe that will be a thing. Anyway, this guy reminds us of Tars from Interstellar a little bit, but it's the only companion we know of so far. Bethesda did say, and I quote, one of many companions, and that they will be, at the very least, able to comment on events and activities going on in the game, but that's it for now. We'll probably find out more soon. But down at number 1, we know Starfield's game engine, or rather the specialized toolset used to make the game, is Creation Engine 2. Now, this might make some people cringe because Fallout and Skyrim were built on Creation Engine 1, and those games are famous for being kind of buggy, let's just say that. Now, keep in mind with this, we are not game developers. Now, some of renaming things is marketing, but judging from what has been suggested with Creation Engine 2 and what we've seen, it's like a complete overhaul, not a from scratch or from the ground up change. So I'd say it's better to keep expectations in check and be realistic and expect something that can feel a little familiar at times. I mean, they have publicly said now Skyrim in space, and judging from the first gameplay, it does look like that. That's not an insult though, at least not to us here. That actually sounds kind of cool, but we can't judge it until we actually get our hands on it. There are still plenty of questions people have about anything from the lighting, the frame rate, everything. But on the bright side, Bethesda has straight up confirmed mod support. The quote from Todd Howard is that Starfield will, and I quote, have full mod support like our previous games. So I know for many people, that's something to look forward to. And if you're a modder on their previous games, maybe you'll find yourself in familiar territory here. Either way, like we said earlier, there are a bunch of empty planets begging for you to put something cool in, so I guess get to work when the game releases, okay? The only other thing you really need to know is that this game is no longer coming in 2022. It's pushed to seemingly the second half of 2023. So, like I said, there's still plenty to learn, and we'll probably make an updated video in a couple months when we get closer to release. But there you have it. That's pretty much everything you need to know about Starfield, from the big picture stuff to some of the more granular stuff we spotted by pausing the video. videos, reading the interviews, stuff like that. So we want to know what you guys think. Let's talk anything Starfield, because I'm sure there's going to be heated, spirited debate down in the comments. If this helped you out, maybe informed you, clicking the like button's all you got to do. We would genuinely appreciate that. But we put out videos every single day, so thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.